Dave, welcome back to another exciting show.
Thank you, CR. Glad to be here. Very excited about being back with you on a Wednesday.
Yeah, so where have you been? It just seems like you're always disappearing.
Yeah, nowhere. I mean, we stayed home for Thanksgiving. Did go to the safari park, my favorite place. So we hung out there again for a day. But other than that, not much going on here.
Oh, good. At least you're having fun staying with the kids and especially the safari park. We hear quite a bit about that amazing park you keep going to.
Yeah, I think I need to just buy into it. By the time I'm done going there, I'll have paid for half of it anyway. But our kids sure have a good time. I enjoy it. This last time we had a camel stick its head, couldn't get the window rolled up far enough, stuck it clear through the car to the other side. So here you got the neck, the head, everything in there, trying to figure out how you're getting this thing out of there.
Wow. And any damage to your car at all?
No, the deer climb up on the side of it a little bit, but really there isn't. You worry about it. I mean, again, you get one of those big bison with their head inside the window and the horn gets caught, you're losing your door.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you're able to have fun and do that, and especially Safari Park. I'll put it on my list and be out there at some point.
Yeah, you definitely need to do it. What about yourself? Been busy with everything, family?
Yeah, just family coming in and learning how to cook. I made my first Thanksgiving meal on my own and it turned out okay. My son
Good.
even told me, he goes, "Dad, imagine if you can pull all of this off by the time everyone gets here." And we did. We pulled it off and it was amazing.
That's cool. Always fun to learn new things and go through that process.
Exactly. Well, I want to welcome all of you who are joining us live, and for those on replay, so glad to have you with us. It's always a joy to have those here that are answering or asking their questions in retirement, and very, very glad that you're here with us to do this. Dave, we have one of your friends on here. Jeff's back.
Jeff, it's good to see you. I've got some good news for you. We're at 70 today. Now, it hasn't been that way. We got down below freezing the other night, but getting a little warm spell here. So we aren't quite as jealous as we are sometimes when it's like 30 degrees here.
Yeah, exactly. And he's also wishing you a Merry Christmas and telling you it's sunny. So it's nice to see that Florida sun being passed around a little bit.
Yeah, likewise. And Jeff, I expect I'll be seeing you in Puerto Rico at the first of the year. I know I'm heading that direction. Hopefully, I'll see you and Corey there as well in January.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And again, for all those joining us live, we hope that you can come on and submit your retirement questions. That's what we're here for. We have a load of questions too. So we've kind of changed up our format if you haven't been with us in a little while, but I've got a really strong set of questions that I go through and ask Dave. And I want you to chime in on the stories we talk about and chime in on what you're facing. Maybe if you're dealing with reverse mortgage or Medicare, Social Security. All of these are topics that we need to talk about to make sure you are ready to not only get to retirement, but get through retirement.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing Jeff's got rice and beans on him. I thought we were going to Aseo up in the mountains, the barbecue place up there, but I'll take rice and beans.
Yeah. Puerto Rican rice and beans are one of the best things I've had. So
Yeah, I know some good hole in the wall places after having lived there as long as I did. So we'll make sure we make something happen.
yeah, there's some great spots, Dave. You even took me to off the side there where the beach was just right next to all the little shops in I can't remember the name of it now. It just slipped in my mind, but you had a lot of great little spots.
Yeah, Pinones
Yeah.
down in Pinones, just an absolute great place with all kinds of little places there to eat, some beautiful beach. So, yeah, lot of options there.
Well, hopefully wherever you are, you're enjoying time, well, with family. Now you're back to work, but if hopefully you're enjoying your time as we're getting in through the holiday season. Dave, what is it about the holidays that changes retirement for us? I mean, I guess I want to put that out there before I dive into our questions today.
To me, the biggest thing is holidays are all about family, getting together with those you love, and really that's what retirement is. It's making sure that you're taking care of yourself, so you know exactly what's going on in your retirement, so you can be there and accessible for your family. But also, if you've got money that you want to pass on to your beneficiaries, those kids and grandkids, that you structure things appropriately to be able to do that. So, great time to really start thinking about your finances, or you think about all the other things you're grateful for with your family and what they add to your life and what you can do to continue to add to their lives.
Very great point, Dave. And what I want to do is I want to dive into some questions here. Again, these are preloaded, but if you have a question you want to ask Dave, feel free to go ahead and get that on here. But Dave, let's start with our first one here from Joni. So Joni's 49, only has a 401k and Social Security. She wants to know at what age should she consider a Roth account and which one?
Jody, I appreciate your question here. And really, when we're looking at it, it's not so much about age as it is about tax brackets. Where are we in the tax system? What do we expect the tax system to be in the future? You're at a point right now, it's a great time to start moving money over. If you're above the mathematically correct balances that we would expect you to have in that account as a single individual, which it sounds like you are, we would want $250,000 or less inside of that account. So if you've got over there, now would be a great time to start moving that money. You're not going to be subject to issues with your Medicare premiums going up. You may be able to get it all moved over before you are faced with Social Security taxation. So I would recommend doing it now. The recommendation, if you have a 401k, there's some things you'd hopefully do at work with your 401k there that would be a Roth option. If not, you can convert those monies over into a Roth IRA. So various options there. Not the only bad thing about a Roth 401k is as you get older, you are going to have RMD requirements with that Roth 401k that you don't have with the Roth IRA. So in the end, yes, we wanted to get into a Roth IRA, but if you're putting money into that Roth 401k now, to convert that out later is not going to be a big issue.
Dave, we're talking about Joni here, who's 49. It sounds like she's got a pretty good path ahead of her. What other suggestions you have as she's out there trying to diversify a little bit? And she's talking about her 401k and Social Security, and you even alluded to it a little bit. There's other options for her. So she's looking at this right now, but is there other things that she could be doing right now at a prime time?
Yeah, there definitely are. And there are things that from a risk side that need to happen because when you only have Social Security, you only have 401k, you're subject to a whole slew of risks that we talk about. I mean, if that market drops, like we all believe it's going to at some point, now she's young enough, may have come back by then, but we don't know when those markets are going to take a turn. And she's going to be subject to market risk. She's going to be subject to inflation risk. Social Security is inflation adjusted, but that 401k is not going to be long-term care. I mean, various things that she's going to have issues with that we want to try to diversify those assets out, get it into principal protected products, some of her assets to help her stabilize what her future can look like.
And Dave, you also mentioned a little bit about what happens during the holidays, and we're talking about setting money aside. So that leads me to my next one. So I want to pull up another question here and dive into Stephen and Kelly. So they're 60 and 56. They're about to buy life insurance policies to cover a funeral cost and potentially leave something behind for their kids. Is there a product that could get to, oh, I can't even read, Dave. Is there a product they could get that would cover long-term care too?
Yeah, there absolutely is. And something that I would look at, Stephen and Kelly, if I were in your situation, is the indexed universal life product. You want to make sure that it meets qualifications that we have as we refer it to a life insurance retirement plan. But especially when you look at it here and say potentially leave something behind to their kids, saying, look, we've got to cover the funeral costs, which insurance you're going to get is probably going to be, hopefully way more than what that's going to cost you to put that together. But when you look at it from a long-term care side, that could be a great option to say, look, we've got the insurance there. If we need it for a long-term care event, we're going to use it. That's just the way the cards are going to fall, and we need to make sure we're taking care of ourselves. But if we don't, there's going to be a death benefit, and we can get that onto our kids, that they'll be able to have access to that money. So those policies can be a great option for where they're at. I'd recommend sitting down with an advisor, and we can help you with that process and get you in contact with those who can help you to make sure you're getting the right amount, you're getting the right products, that you're really setting this up correctly.
And Dave, as we talk about this, we begin at the beginning of this again. We talk about leaving money for our kids, and some of the times we're planning out our retirement on that purpose. But a lot of times you're giving some pretty solid advice by saying, hey, let's focus on us first, and then whatever's left we'll have. So talk about that philosophy a little bit, because I want to make sure that people understand that.
My biggest belief is the best gift you can give your kids is an education. Well, that for most of you is going to happen before you pass away, that you'll be able to provide that opportunity to them. Now, that being said, I would not risk your own retirement to provide an education for your kids, but many of you are in a financial position where you can help provide that education to get them to a point they can earn their own money. And when it comes to the rest, too many retirees are giving up their retirement with the belief they're somehow going to help their children by leaving them a bunch of money, that somehow it's going to turn out to a different result than it did for them that had to work so hard for it. I came from that generation. You did as well. We came from environments where we had to work for everything that we got, and we want to make it easier. But in doing that, many times, all we're doing is creating more problems. What created the lifestyles we have is our willingness to work, our willingness to put in the time, our willingness to sacrifice. And I do see way too many people giving that money to the kids, and then the kids go out and join the country club. They go on those lavish trips. They do all the things that parents were unwilling to do, but really should have taken advantage of while they were alive.
Great advice, Dave. And that's the one thing, again, why we're here is we want to provide that education, not only for, for our kids, but also for ourselves. And with that, Dave, I do want to pull up a comment here we have coming from David. Let's see if I can get it pulled up on the screen. David's saying, since Roth 401ks have an RMD requirement, does it make sense to roll it into a Roth IRA at retirement? Are there any negative tax implications or anything else to consider?
David, thanks for joining us today and for your question here. It does make a lot of sense to make that transition, to get it over into the Roth IRA, because you really don't want to have to worry about being forced to take money out, especially from a tax-free account. Again, no reason to do it because the problem's going to be for many people, they may be putting that back into a taxable account. If you've got to take that money out, you're not going to spend it. And you're saying, look, what do I do with it? I'm just going to put it into a taxable account and now have to pay tax on the growth again. So it does make sense. Really, there's no consequences to that. You're able to roll out and do conversions at this point without any tax consequences, because the tax consequences would have happened going into that Roth account. So whether you did conversions, whether you did contributions, and then we're not able to deduct those contributions or defer the tax on those, that's where the consequences would have come, not once you're doing the conversion from a 401k Roth into a IRA Roth.
And Dave, as we're reading this question here, as I'm reading this question from David, what's the difference if he starts this now versus, let's say, 5 or 6 years from now? Is there a difference on that?
Not as far as the conversion from a Roth 401k to a Roth IRA, and that can be done at any time as you take those options. Now, there may be some problems in being able to take the money out within the first 5 years. If you've got an IRA account, that's been set up, a Roth account, if you're under age 59 and a half, and that's just the gains on there. But again, we don't want people pulling the money out of these accounts. These are retirement accounts. We want them, they're left for when you get into your retirement years. So yeah, nothing in regards to making those conversions. A big thing is trying to get it into the Roth, saying, hey, how do I take this time? Because most people haven't set it where it needs to be. How do I take these next 5 years before taxes go up and start slowly moving that money over so I can get into the best position?
David, I hope that answers your question. Thank you for submitting that question here live. And Dave, I appreciate you putting that one in there too. I think it's really important that we talk about all these different situations as we're getting all of these scenarios that pop up, because your retirement is going to be different from my retirement versus David's and everyone else's. And it's something we have to continually look at, is how we take care of ourselves and not whoever's, we're trying to match.
Absolutely. And we're all going to have different income needs during our retirement. We're all going to have different things we want to do. Some people want to keep it very simple, very easy. Others want to really enjoy life that maybe they weren't able to enjoy during their working years. So all of that needs to be taken into consideration.
Yeah. And David saying, thanks so much. Very helpful as always. Glad to have you here with us, David. All right, Dave, let me jump over to Drake. It's a new one that came in here. So Drake is 68, would like to give his notice for retirement to his teaching job. He wants extra stream of income with his pensions, and he considered a reverse mortgage and an annuity. So what do you recommend, Dave?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about this when we look here. Reverse mortgage is the first one. Let's address that first. He is getting to an age that a reverse mortgage could work pretty effectively for him. Now, if you're in your early 60s, you can take these out at age 62. Not a big fan of going to the reverse mortgage initially, especially if you're going to take the monthly payment option, because you've got a lot of years that the mortgage company is going to have to deal with the accruing interest. Therefore, you're not going to get as much money, and it's not going to be inflation adjusted. So again, as inflation's going up, you're going to have some issues there. I just saw yesterday, I was looking, the amount of the home values you can now borrow borrow against from a reverse mortgage for 2020, it's going up almost $100,000. I can't remember the exact numbers. Like 800,000 was the last year's value that you could use to calculate your reverse mortgage off of. Now it's over 9 going into 2022. So he's getting at a point, could be a great thing. May want to look at the credit line option. This is something many people don't often consider, but that's where you get the loan and then you just pull it out as you need to, which means if you've got a year where you're not needing to have extra income, don't take the money out. Instead of having a set payment that's just coming in month after month, don't take that money out, let it set in there. You're not going to have the interest accrue. Therefore, you're not going to eat away a bunch of the equity in your house. It's also going to increase the amount you can borrow each year. If you don't take the money out, that credit line is going to increase in what you can borrow out each year, which is another great option. Now, as far as the annuity side, depending on where your overall structure is, annuities can be a great way to limit the risks that you're going to be exposed to from a downturn in the market. So you've got your pension plan, you've got Social Security. Annuity may or may not be the best thing for you, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, but definitely something you could look at.
So Dave, when we look at reverse mortgage, first of all, we want to let everyone know that you do teach a webinar on this. And in fact, it's hard to get in some of these classes right now because they're so full right now because so many people are coming and trying to get this information.
Yeah, we had 1,200 people register for our reverse mortgage class that happened the other day. And as a result, many of these are getting capped because they are getting so large. We've got so many people trying to come in, but a great way to understand the ins and outs, the way they work. And we're going to have some updates for 2022 because your lending limits are going to start increasing because of what's gone on in the housing market. It's been great if you own a house. Sucks if you don't, because now it's very hard to get into the market. I mean, I think we've had, they said even just last month or two, 16 or 17% increase in home values. Crazy to me what's going on there. But if you're looking at reverse mortgages, could be a great opportunity. And especially if you think the market's going to go down, could be a great time to lock into a much higher value with the realization your home may be worth a lot less a year or two from now. And that's not going to affect your ability to get the money out that you've already been committed to.
And then Dave, let's take the other word, the annuity. That one we talk about in so many different formats here, just because there's so many different products. But you always tell me that annuities are such a great product. But then when I go online, I read all of these horror stories. Why am I getting such a different view on this?
Yeah, a number of reasons. Annuity companies themselves shot themselves in the foot years ago because they were very high products that didn't have a lot of guarantees in them. So you have a lot of history of bad press. Also, you've got a lot of financial advisors that don't sell them. And if they don't sell it, they can't make money. Therefore, everything's bad. So they say they're fiduciaries for your retirement, but if they're not offering these products, I'm not sure how they can be. So we've got those issues. And then as we look at it, though, it's really just about getting a better education now, saying, look, products have changed substantially. We've got new products out there. And if you're really trying to eliminate risk, they're an amazing way to do it. And the fees that were associated with many of those old variable products, we have products that are no fee. They're spread products. So just a whole different world, but it's really hard to get out of old habits. I mean, we look at a traditional 401k. It's been hard to get people to put money into a Roth account. Well, why? Because those original 401ks came back in the 1970s. Roths haven't come about until last decade or so. Well, that was a lot of time of people getting in a habit of saying, I'm just going to defer my taxes, defer my taxes, defer my taxes. And definitely it's happened in the annuity world. People just aren't aware of the power of some of these new products and what they can do.
And Dave, if we're also looking at Drake here, I just want to bring up one more thing. So he is looking for extra stream of income. Do you ever see that when people come to you and say, okay, Dave, I need some extra income and I need something else? Do you see people starting to make some poor choices, especially right now because the market is so volatile?
Yeah, so many people just think this market's not going down. We saw back in 2007, I sat and watched it, that people just started getting crazy. They started doing things that they would have never done a year or two before, and greed sets in. We're afraid of missing out. We see what's going on with our friends and our neighbors, and we want to be a part of that. But it is something we've got to be very careful with, because those type of things, once they go down and you've locked yourself into some income streams, can be very problematic. And that's where annuities and reverse mortgages can be good options to get locked in and allow those income streams to last forever if you want them to.
And Dave, I want to remind those that are with us live, if you have a retirement question, go ahead and get that submitted. And we're talking, I mean, we're talking about annuities, but it could be long-term care. It could be reverse mortgage. It could be Medicare, Social Security, you name it. We're here with Dave talking all about retirement. And Dave, with that, we also have a bunch of questions here. I don't want to get this one that is, I thought this one was a pretty good question. With the new year approaching, Kiki and Wayne, 70, are both retiring within the year and are worried about the tax rate increase. Should they be concerned about their tax deferred accounts?
Yeah, it's interesting you asked this question because I was just thinking about it on the last question. The real retirement age now, when you really should start looking at pulling a lot of money out of your various accounts, is 70. Meaning that's when you should be taking Social Security. That's when, if you've got an annuity, you really should wait until about that age to get the maximum dollars. From a reverse mortgage, you really should wait to that time because, again, once you've got to that age, average life expectancy for a male is 84, average life expectancy for a female is 88. You got 14 to 18 to what could become 20 or 30 years for you, depending on how long you live. So as we look at that, though, in their situation from a tax side, absolutely. I mean, this is the big problem. You've got two things that are going against you right now. Number one, inflation is a tax on your saving. And then if taxes go up, all of a sudden you have a whole lot less buying power, especially if you're one that's stuck into fixed payments. You're kind of stuck. I mean, now all of a sudden you're having to pull more money out of your retirement accounts to pay for the taxes, to deal with the inflation. Before you know it, you're going to end up running out of money before you run out of retirement.
And Dave, the reason I like this question too is because as we're looking at this, a lot of people aren't seeing that tax rates are going to increase. But you're telling me over the course of all of the time you've been researching, there's been some pretty significant tax increases that we haven't even really thought about because we're like, hey, that was in the past. But you're telling me there's a lot of different times that the tax rate has been ridiculous.
Well, it's like inflation. If we were to go back, I mean, most of us don't remember back when inflation was, you had interest rates that were 12, 14, 18%. You had inflation, you had hyperinflation, all these issues. We just forget, which I think is a blessing in our lives. It's easy to forget the bad things and let them go in the past. But you look at tax rates. I mean, if they go up, everyone's panicking about the inflation that's going on, especially seniors. I mean, you had an issue where Social Security goes up 5.9%. Medicare, the cost of your Medicare premiums, it's going up $21.60 next year, like a 14, almost 15% increase in 1 year. Well, then you take taxes and all of a sudden they're going up, let's say 5-6%. Initially, they end up going up 10 or 20%. Just think about how bad that's hurting your buying power and the money that you have available. I mean, I don't know a lot of retirees that could take a 10 or 20% cut on their wages, their income, whatever that is, Social Security, Medicare, whatever the case may be, or Social Security or pensions, whatever it may be, and be able to really survive at the lifestyle they're hoping to have.
And so, Dave, remind me when we had the highest tax rate that we've seen. I mean, we look at this and we say to ourselves, "This can't happen during my lifetime," but you're saying it has, and it will continue again.
Yeah, we go back to the 70s. The highest tax rate was 70%. I mean, I was born in 1970. That was during my lifetime. We go back to World War II, which is during a period of time that we had the same debt issues we have now. Highest bracket was 94%. So yeah, I think we're just fooling ourselves if we think that there's not going to become a day of reckoning. It's very easy to just look out to the future and say, hey, never going to be any consequences to this. Yeah, I don't agree with it, but we need to prepare ourselves.
And Dave, one more thing I wanted to bring up. We talk about Kiki and Wayne, so they're both 70. We've talked about the harm if they try to go maybe 72, 73 to start taking their Social Security because maybe they think there's some other benefit they're getting beyond that. But you're saying after 70, there isn't anything else for that Social Security benefit.
No, there isn't. I mean, that you're going to get your inflation adjustment, your COLA adjustment on whatever you should have gotten, but you're going to miss out on tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on how much you're entitled to each year from your Social Security benefit. So 70 is the longest you want to wait to get those. Doesn't mean you have to retire. I mean, once you hit full retirement age CR, you can earn as much money as you want and your benefits aren't going to be reduced. Now, you will have to pay taxes on the Social Security money that you have coming in, but you're not going to have those benefits reduced. So a lot of moving parts, a lot of things people have to consider. And someone like them, they work till they're 70. Some people want to stop at 67. Well, there are options for you to spin down for a 3-year window and then wait till 70, take that Social Security. Maybe you got some annuities, start annuitizing those at that age so you can get a higher amount out of there. You've just got to plan. And again, you've got to especially look at those initial years and what's going to happen during those first few years, because that's what's really going to set the basis for the next 20, 30, 40 years, whatever the case may be for you.
Dave, let's jump over to my next one that I have here from Ashley and Mark. So Ashley and Mark are in their mid 50s. They plan to retire early and travel a lot within the US. Will traveling for long periods of time affect their assets and Social Security?
A lot of it's going to depend on the cost that they incur while they're doing this. Obviously, there's going to be some additional cost to that. You're usually not able to travel at the price you're able to stay in your own home. Now, I guess if they were outdoors people and wanted to camp all along the way, that maybe they could stay in places that would allow them to keep those costs down. But yes, from a Social Security standpoint, it's not going to affect them if they wait until the period of time, once they start claiming their Social Security. I mean, they're going to have some lack of earning years here. If they retire in their mid 50s, it may affect the benefits. But a lot of things they've got to consider here. And if they're going to retire that early, do they have enough assets to get them through for them, which may be 50 years, 45, 50 years. That's a long time, far more than they spent working.
Dave, when we get into Medicare and Medigap, and we're talking about traveling all over the place, do you see any implications with that being tied to this?
I do, but for them, I mean, the bigger issue for them is going to be their mid 50s. They're not even going to qualify for Medicare until 65. So they've got 10 years, and this is what we're seeing with the fire community. Initially, when it came out, I'm like, you know what, that sounds great, and it does. You know what, we work hard, we scrimp, and then we end up being able to retire early. But your medical costs alone are going to create some major issues. If you're in this position now, maybe able to get onto the exchange, there's things that could be done there, and with the subsidies, it may not cost you that much. But that's the big issue where you're going to have some gaps, and especially if there's medical issues that they have that they're having to deal with. But something they've got to look at. I mean, there's so many things. If you're going to retire that early, you got to have quite a bit of assets and really figured out how you're going to get that monthly income coming in throughout the next 40, 50 years.
And then we can't even, I mean, we don't even want to mention, but if you travel outside the US, then it's a whole different piece of scenarios.
Absolutely. I mean, you're not going to have any coverage from your exchange insurance. Once you get on Medicare, it's not going to provide any coverage for you. So, you've got to look at those things and take those into consideration. I think oftentimes we look at the fun part of retirement, and I'm not saying retirement can't be fun. I know many people that thoroughly enjoy it. It's the freedoms that we have, getting up whenever you want, being able to go spend the day with family or doing a service project, whatever the case may be. But there's all these financial things we've got to make sure we have in place so that we handle it correctly. And again, if you're 55, you want to retire and you have the assets or figured out, that's great if you have a plan. But if you don't have a plan, you just think, hey, you know what, I'm going to ride this thing out. Well, the problem is it's probably going to blow up when you're in your late 70s and you can't really fix it anymore.
And isn't every day a Saturday once you retire?
It is, which means a lot of spending for many people. I mean, that's the other thing, especially in the initial years. You kind of see this period of time where retirees really overspend, many of them, and then realize, hey, that wasn't what I should do. And they start tapering back and trying to figure it out. But a lot of things we've got to look at.
Well, Dave, I have one more question I'm going to try to squeeze in here. Salvatore and Daniela, 70 and 72, plan to retire late in life at 75, but want to continue working part-time somehow. Will working part-time after retiring affect their Social Security benefits?
For them, it's not going to. Now, it looks like, I mean, if you're working into your 70s, I've got to assume you've worked most of your working life, that this couple's been working probably from their mid 20s at least, going into this period of time. They will have to continue to make contributions into Social Security, but it's based on the top 35 years. So the assumption is that they would already have their top 35 years in. Therefore, any part-time work's not going to replace any of those years. But if maybe Daniela was in a situation where she had stayed home and raised the kids, or Salvatore was, one of them was to have stayed home during their initial years, didn't go into work till maybe in their 50s. So now they've only got maybe 20, 25 years into the Social Security. They would have an opportunity to increase those benefits even during these late retirement years if it's higher than any of those previous 35 years of earnings that they've had.
Dave, why do you see this kind of shift of people who want to continue working after 70?
I think there's a number of things that we've got to look at. One's financial. Many of the people we saw back in 2008, so many of them end up losing a lot of their money, took the money out of the market, were very scared about what was going on, so they didn't get the uptick that's happened over the last 13 years. So we've got that. Number two, people are healthier. I was meeting with one of my clients the other day, 78 years old, starting a brand new nonprofit that is a huge organization. And she's super excited. And you'd never guess she was that age. So she's extremely healthy, very ambitious, making things happen on a daily basis. So we've just got various reasons that are happening. Now, obviously, some people have to, they just have no other option but to continue to work to help supplement their retirement. But we are seeing more and more of it. People are working a lot longer. And part of it definitely is, again, half of America hasn't saved anything for their retirement. So what else do we do if we need to supplement Social Security? We got to go back to work or keep working.
Well, Dave, it looks like we're out of time. We've almost got through all of our questions. It was a pleasure to get through this with you. I do want to bring up one thing for you, and I want to see if I can get this on the screen here and have you talk a little bit about this. Tell me about this upcoming webinar that we have that's your brand new webinar.
Yes, this is one that I'm very excited about. Much of the content has been out there in other webinars. What we did is some of our most popular webinars were these various government programs from Social Security and Medicare. A lot of people needed more information on long-term care and elder abuse. So we consolidated that into a 4-hour presentation. So you are going to be flooded with information if you were to sign up for this class, but very excited because we take deep dives into topics that you desperately need to know about if you want to truly prepare yourself for retirement and get yourself in a place where you can reduce or eliminate the various risks you're going to face.
And if you want to be part of that, it's going to be December 14th. And I'm going to be sending out our email blast tomorrow with all the details on that. And I do want to let you know also that if you don't get that, you can come onto our events page and you can sign up there and get ready for that 4-hour class, the Foundation for a Secure Retirement. Dave, anything else you have for us before we let you go today?
The biggest thing I tell everyone, take this time during the holidays to, pay attention to your family, not just spending time with them, the loved ones, maybe making some reconciliations if those need to be done, but also take some time to figure out your finances. We want to have a plan. We need to have a plan. We talked about in this one course, we're going to talk about elder abuse. One of the biggest problems people have when they get in retirement where they fall subject to elder abuse is when they don't have a plan, when they don't have a set process that's going to allow them to get monthly income, going to allow them to know they have the assets they need to get through the retirement. So just tell people to take some extra time for themselves. Now, that may also include, other things that you do, exercise and things of that nature, but we want to really focus on ourselves and things we can do to make 2022 a great year.
And we want to thank each of you who have been here with us today live and on replay for being part of this with Dave. And remember, if you have other questions that come up, go to retirementriskadvisors.com and click on the contact us and go ahead and submit your questions so we can put these into our panel here so we can continue to add those each week. And again, like Dave said, just really spend time, really focus this year, at the end of the year, and then next year, let's make it a better year. Because Dave, the best advice I think I've gotten from all of this is we get so much education, so much information, but we have to do something with it. And I think that's the thing is I'm hoping that as we get into our 2022, we're not just going to be like, in February, it's like the gym membership. You sign up for it. You're super excited. And by March, you're like, man, I hated the gym. I don't even know why I signed up for that. But with this one, we're really taking our retirement serious. So we're going to start now.
Yeah, I had to laugh. I take my son to seminary religious classes at 5:30 in the morning. And hadn't even thought about it. But Monday, there was like a ton of people out jogging, walking their dogs. Tuesday, there was a lot of people out jogging and walking their dogs. And today, there was nobody out jogging and walking their dogs. All of a sudden hit me. It's like, oh, wait, we had Thanksgiving last week. Everybody was getting out, making those commitments. They're going to get those pounds off before we got into Christmas. Well, unfortunately, it only lasted a couple of days for most of the people I saw, but we've got to make those long-term commitments. We've just got to slow and steady wins the race. And that's the way it is in retirement. We can do a lot over a long period of time if we put things in place to allow them to keep moving forward.
And I think that's the best part. Again, it's just the small, simple pieces that we can work on to make our retirement super impactful for us, especially as we're just getting started. I think that's a big change. So Dave, thanks so much again for being here.
You're welcome.
And we'll talk to you guys all again next week. Remember, we're always here at 11 a.m. Central. And if it's not Dave, if it's not me, we always have special guests we throw into. So prepare for some exciting things as we're continually changing this up. But thanks for being here with us. And we'll catch you guys again next time.
Bye.